People always asking me how prison is, like what it's like. And I can only tell you about my experiences, the things that I've been through in New York. Somebody in another state might have a whole completely different experience. It's ran on different politics, different things. In New York State, we don't have race gangs. There's not specifically black gangs or Hispanic gangs or any of these other things. There's no white power gangs. There's no none of that. That shit doesn't exist in New York. You have Hispanic gangs like Latin Kings, but they have black members. You have Nietas, they also have black members and white members and everything else in between. Bloods and Crips are white, black, and everything else in between. There's no gangs that are specifically race related. The racism thing doesn't exist. The politics thing doesn't exist, but there are gang politics, which are different. This gang runs this gang does this. You're not going to be able to just get drugs in it to visit and sell drugs unless you're affiliated with whatever gang is in charge, because somebody's going to come try to rob you, etc. Now, in prison, you don't sit around all day either. You have a job. There's a specific thing you have to do. Either you're going to have a job, which is going to be cleaning the dorm or working in the mess hall or cleaning the yard, but you're always going to have a specific thing you have to do. You're not going to be just sitting on your bunk. As a matter of fact, when I was in prison at 7 o'clock in the morning, your bunk needed to be made, and you needed to, if you were going to lay down, you would have to sleep actually on top of your covers, but your bed would have to be made. At a certain time, I think it was like 10 or something, you weren't even allowed to be in your bed. Like, you had to be up, moving around, doing something. The thing with prison is everything is routine. So it's like, I'll get up. I worked in the mess hall. So what would happen was I would get up, I would eat something, take a shower, put my whites on. In the mess hall, you wear whites. So then I would get ready. I would go to the mess hall. I would go to the mess hall. I would clean whatever pots were left from lunchtime, because I was working in the pot room, which is great because you get extra food. And when I get my break, I would go work out. We would have weights made out of water inside of bags. We would use the juice, giant juice things sometimes to work out in there. I would do the rest of the mess hall stuff. And then after dinner, I would go back, and then I would take a shower. I'd get changed back into my state greens. And then we'll go to the rec yard, which was usually around like 7 or 8 o'clock. I can't really remember. It was a while ago now. So I would go to the rec yard, which was the last rec. That's the nighttime rec. So I would go to rec, come back, watch TV, watch a movie, whatever, until the TVs go off at 12. And then I listen to music or whatever, go to sleep, because now you got to be in your cube or your cell, depending if you're where you're at. So everything is followed around this routine. You do this, you eat this. This is what you do. Now, on the days off, I'm probably cooking in the dorm because I'm working in the mess hall, so I got a bunch of food plus extra money. So make some rice and some Jack Mac. I had a guy who used to cook, who was a great cook, so he would cook for a bunch of us, and we'd just sit down and we would eat. We'd play spades, play chess. This is how we pass the time as time goes by. Now, in between all this, there's a lot of politics and violence. There's a lot of situations. Somebody's looking at somebody. Somebody doesn't like somebody. Somebody feels like this person is acting out. Somebody feels like this person's being too loud. And now there's a fight. Now there's a fight. Now other people are involved. Now somebody's getting stabbed. Somebody's getting something. Now, if you're in certain jails, like some jails Crips can't live. So if you're Crip and you come to this jail, as soon as you come in, it's going to be violence. You're going to have to deal with that consistently until either you get caught fighting and the COs send you to the box and then you go to another jail, or until you get sent to the hospital, because it's going to be one of the two, because there was no more checking in when I was in prison. The only way that you was going to check in the PC is if you actually told on somebody, because what would happen was a lot of the Bloods that were coming in, they were trying to sign in, and they're like, oh, I just got beef with the Crips. So the CO started being like, what Crips? Who? So the only way they were able to check in is if they actually told on somebody. Now it's going to be on their jacket that they're a snitch. So they can't do that. The homosexuals got their own group. They stay together. They don't come around anybody else. Nobody talks to them. The Muslims are a big group. They go between everybody else. The 5%ers are a big group. They go around everybody else, except for the homosexuals, because I said they're in their own group. There is no snitch group. There's no pedophile group. If you come in there and you're a pedophile, you're going to get beat the fuck up. They're going to chase you out. Somebody might cut you. They might stab you. They might throw hot oil on you. But you're not ever going to be able to live on the compound and just be a pedophile. Like, that's not a thing. People make weapons out of fan blades. They make weapons out of broken pieces of metal. I've seen weapons made out of glass. Don't ask me where they got it. Motherfucker had like that plexiglass, made a nice shank that goes like this and comes down, kind of like a fucking spike. Wrapped the bottom of it with like the rubber that goes to a glove, like a vinyl glove. You get those if you work in a dorm cleaning, and had a shank made out of that shit. People will make shanks out of anything that's sharp enough to stab you and hurt you and kill you. And a lot of people have weapons. Now, a lot of things that go down in New York is robbery. So if you get a package in and you ain't got a team or you ain't tough like that, somebody's going to try you and try to take it. If you're getting commissary in, somebody's going to try to extort you. If you got sneakers, somebody's going to try to take your sneakers. Like, it's a lot of wolf shit going on. It's a lot of robbing. It's a lot of strong arm robbery that goes on in prison, and that's really a thing. And there's also sneak thieving. Like, you might go to chow, somebody will break into your locker and steal everything out your locker. You'll come back, your locker will be broken, off your locker, and your locker will be sitting there on your bed empty. And it is what it is. Like, that type of shit happens all the time. You got to worry about racist COs planting weapons on you, etc. We just go to the rec yard and have rap battles and stuff like that. Dudes will be rapping. Like, I used to rap back then, so I would go to the yard, have rap battles. I was a monster at rap battling. So we used to do all these things to pass the time. The most important thing to a lot of people in prison is getting mail. So you'll get mail, you'll get visits. This is your contact to the outside. Some people like to be on the phone. Some people, like 80, like to call me 700,492 times a day while they're in prison, which is fucking annoying. So if you see this, 80, yeah, motherfucker. Call me all the time when he was in prison. A lot. A fucking lot. Motherfucker call me, then call me back 5 minutes later. He stay on the phone. I didn't used to be on the phone in prison because that connects you to the world too much. So you're always involved in things that are going on in the world. And I don't like that. I like to just do my time, get my time over with, and go. Now, I wrote a lot of books because you got a lot of time in prison. There's a lot of downtime, a lot of time where you're just sitting around, a lot of time where you're not doing nothing, a lot of time like waiting for counts and things like that. You actually got to be in your cube. You can't really do shit. So I took a lot of time to write books, to sit down and put these books together, etc. Now, everybody gets along in prison until there's a situation or if there's some type of tension going on between the two gangs. But like I said, it's a routine. Everybody has a routine where they go here, they do this, and this is what they do. You mess up somebody's routine, it's 99.9% of the time always going to be a fucking problem. So when people go to prison, they do their time, they try to come home, but there's a bunch of violence that you're almost 1000% sure gonna get pulled into. You're gonna get in a fight. Somebody might try to stab you, they might try to cut you. It's always some shit that happens. There's always a thing. Now, if you're under a certain age, I think at the time it was 25 maybe, you have to get a GED. So they're gonna force you to go to a school program until you get your GED. Once you get your GED, you can do a work program, you can do something. You have to do something. Like I said, you can't just sit around. You have to do something. So after you finish school. Now, there are trades that you can go take. There were heating and air conditioning in there. There were a couple bullshit trades. The problem is we don't get college anymore. And this is because there were people in the streets that were crying, why should a criminal in prison get free college when I can't get free college out here? But the answer isn't why are the criminals getting free college? The question is, why the fuck are you not getting free college? Everybody should be getting free college, which is what they're trying to do in New York now. So what happened is they pull college. Now, the problem with the prison system is there's no rehabilitation going on anymore. They're not teaching you anything. They're not learning anything. They're giving you bullshit ass programs like ASAP, which is alcohol and substance abuse treatment. 95% of the people in that program are drug dealers. Why do you have drug dealers in a substance abuse program? That is a program that should be specifically used for drug addicts. But what they're saying is selling drugs is an addiction. It's not an addiction. Motherfuckers are selling drugs to make the money. If there was no money in selling drugs, motherfuckers wouldn't sell drugs. Motherfuckers would still smoke crack. Just because they smoke crack, that's an addiction. So these programs are being wasted and they're not being used. So people are not being rehabilitated and they're not coming out into society with better skills and better things than they had before. They're coming out of society more violent and just around more criminals. So they're learning more ways to be better criminals and they're coming back into the streets and doing crime. And it's just a rotating system that continues to go around and around and around. We need to have programs in place in prison that will help people do things, not force somebody to be a fucking janitor or force somebody to go to the factory and make core craft, fucking soap and all the other shit that they use in prisons, because that's exactly what they do in New York State. They're not helping anybody to be better going into the streets. You take a violent person, you throw them in a violent environment, you don't give them anything to change, then they're not going to change. So the routine becomes violence, programs, working out, eating, repeat. And that's how this shit consistently goes. Prison is fucking boring. It's fucking violent. And it doesn't rehabilitate you in any type of fucking way.